my friends, I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table. I've got little Missy sitting over there in the corner. You know, it's funny, because I spent my entire lifetime resisting being called Rick. I didn't like it. I generally respond to Richard. I've always preferred Richard. I do not like any other abbreviations for it, such as Dick, because for obvious reasons, I thought that was kind of absurd. But I've just never been. I guess I've been a bit of have a formality thing about that. But when I started doing this channel stuff, it just kind of sounds a little softer, a little nicer. I don't know. Anyway, all right. What do you say, Missy? Missy's just sitting there looking at me. She's bored in a box. Yes, I know. I would let you out in the living room, but I don't. I got a whole. I don't know if Mama's out of the shower yet or what. Anyway, so I'm looking at the original Mechwarrior BattleTech role-playing game system. I paid $12 for this book, and what year did I get it? What year did it come out? It came out in 1986. So I bought this when I was 19 years old, a year after I got out of high school. Obviously, I've been working at probably at Domino's, or I moved from Domino's to 7-Eleven at that point. And I still had a small group of people I was getting together with for a while there, and but we were not playing BattleTech. And I was trying so hard to get them interested into playing a role-playing version of BattleTech, and it just didn't sail. And I've kind of always been disappointed about that. And I've always kind of wished that I could have played it at least one time. Really made some effort to run a game with it. Even so, I've read this book numerous times and over again. And then, of course, as newer stuff came out, it got sat on the shelf. But you can see it has seen some use. This is a book that I use quite a lot, and I used it for well, I couldn't get him to play. I couldn't get him to play the damn game, but we were neck deep in Star Wars, and there's so many options for things like Star Wars, and I started pilfering things from BattleTech to put into Star Wars until it became blatantly obvious. And then one of them's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "What?" What? They got ats, so why not have something like this? The galaxy's vast. I'm just saying, dude. Why not? So anyway, I mean, I really, this thing has been with me. Jesus, that was it, 35 years? Books? 36 years? It has moved. It has been in numerous apartments and in my parents' basement, and it was in storage in the attic, and it was storage. Thank God it didn't get stuck out in the barn. I think I'd have murdered my cousins at that point, and that's not a boast either. I was livid by the amount of stuff that got destroyed as it was. Anyway, BattleTech, the role-playing game. If you're, it's interesting to note, and I've said this before in other videos, that one of the things that makes BattleTech so different or unique is that it started out as a tabletop war game, and it's predominantly a tabletop war game, which means there's actually a segment of gaming society that only likes tabletop war games. They don't like role-playing games because they can't connect with them. They think they're silly, they think they're childish, or they just really love the board game side of things and they don't care enough to want to know. And then you have a whole group of people that's the other way around. They love the miniatures on the terrain maps while they're sitting there, role playing. And most players call themselves role players, RPGers and things like that. In reality, they're not. And there's a whole school and a whole slew of arguments out there right now on the internet. You can go out on YouTube and find dozens of these videos where the discussion about what is role-playing games and are we truly role-playing? Are we conducting a theater of the mind, or are we doing a board game? And so in the same argument, well, I play board games now, then you should like playing this. Well, I don't get this. Dude, it's just an extremely complicated board game. That's what a war game is. A battle, you know, a tabletop war game is still a board game. By definition, you've got your board, your map, you got your pieces, your minis, cardboard couch, whatever you're using, and you got your rules. And then you got the medium for directing things. You know, dice is what it is. So that said, there's a whole slew of gamers who only role play. They will only do what they think is role play. You know, then there are some that like to cross over and do both. And then, of course, we had to come in after the 80s. The video game industry just keeps ramping up and ramping up. And now y'all who play video games today, you really should play the crap we played in the 80s to get an understanding where we came from and where your games that you love got their foundation based from, right? But that was a whole nother element of people who came in who are used to having most of the stuff done for them. The computer does most your grunt work for you, and you just got to direct whatever it is you want the thing to do, whatever your avatar or whatever's going. So in the case of BattleTech, you get into the BattleTech videos, and they're very real, very entertaining and lifelike as possible. It gives you a real flavor. And one thing that they can do in a video game that you really can never translate well on a table, regardless if it's a tabletop war game or a role-playing game, is pressuring the speed. Because in a video game, as you well know, you're in constant motion or you're in trouble. You know, if you're just parking your stuff in one spot, waiting for everything to come to you, they're going to murder. They're going to murder you, or you're just going to sit there forever because you're not going to trigger the things necessary to get the things to come after you. That said, you're in motion. Time's moving fast. Now we try to quantify that by having rounds. Now we have combat rounds. We have movement rounds, we have this, we have that. Well, in reality, as you know from a video game, everybody's in motion at once. So having everybody go round robin is only way we can really handle it as management from the management side of the game. But in reality, everybody should be playing at the same time. You're moving, you're firing, you're doing everything in the proper rotation that you're supposed to, but at the same time. And then you really can't do is you can't have 10 different. You can have a 3 lance company of mechs, but you got to individually move each one and walk through all your movements for all these things, as opposed to a video game where they're all doing it. You're controlling one thing and everything else is the computer's controlling everything else. So this generation comes up with this unrealistic expectation. So when they come into and sit down at the table, they're either bored, overwhelmed, or disinterested, in part because this is not a video game. No, no, it's not. And on the other side of this thing here can be a million times more detailed and a hell of a lot more fun than a video game, if they have the right mindset. There's always the caveats, right? So, I mean, the BattleTech is, and I've said it before in previous videos too, it's one of those catch-all game systems that appeal to tabletop war gamers and role-playing gamers and video gamers. And then you add all that to the deep lore and the novels. There are people who have never played the game in their lifetime. They've read the novels. They think the novels are great. They're just intimidated or scared or think it's stupid to sit down and actually try to play it. The only caveat, some of them might play a video game, but then they might not. But the fact is, you still bring in a whole nother group of fan base who love the lore, love the stories, love the in essence, what BattleTech is, and the combination of all that is what gives them gives Catalyst such a robust field of opportunities. Not just Catalyst, but the people who own the franchise too. So, I mean, and we benefit from that in many different ways. So, these things were important when they first came out. It started to see the branching. People at FASA were not stupid. FASA created plenty of role-playing game systems. Shadowrun, the original Star Trek game system came through FASA. I have those, and there's videos on them on this channel if you want to go hunt for them. Just saying that they understood quite well how the role-playing game system works. So when they came up with the MechWarrior itself, it's, you know, not a hard stretch for them to do. But what it did was it was quite clever, because then it started bringing in more players who started playing the role-playing version, and in the process learned to do the tabletop wargaming. Because what is tabletop wargaming in the eyes of a role-play gamer but the little minis on the map in front of them, which is the essence of a tabletop wargame. Am I wrong? Anyway, like I said, you got the MechWarrior role-playing game. You get your basic rules. You give us a little bit of lore and information. It's talking about the Succession Wars, creating your MechWarrior, creating your character, skills, tributes, connections, how you get experience, how you use experience, how you advance, creating a mech unit. You know, it's just... And the artwork, and we're talking 80s artwork, and there's a lot of people that don't like this stuff, and I think this is actually better. This was the second, and by definition, this artwork's actually second generation artwork, because if you saw some of the very early stuff, and it's out there, and I've done videos on them, I'm sure you have, you know damn well I'm talking about. This is a step up from the first stuff, which is fine, because some of that first stuff was like early 80s punk rock, psychedelic kind of stuff, like somebody's mixing the 60s and the 80s together. It was kind of weird. Anyway, it was cheap, and that's what they had to work with, was you know, over time. So when you talk about looking at that one fantastic, wonderful artwork they have today, take in consideration how much of it's done on computers that's rendered now, and then there's the actual artists who, as children, as kids, started learning to sketch these things the hard way. If you've never, look, for y'all who are serious artists, man, I understand 100% what it is you've done. Once again, I have videos on my channel that shows some of the artwork I myself have personally done. None of BattleTech, of course, but there was a point where I got really passable doing animation style, Japanese anime style artwork, and because I had a lot of time on my hand, and it was something I could do, and not have to have a whole bunch of people standing around while I was doing it. Sometimes you just need to be able to kill time, and you need to do something productive, and that's to keep your sanity, is what it is. So anyway, we get down into equipment and various vehicles, and what they were bringing into the tabletop war game was a whole nother level and element of interaction with the universe, the game world, or the giant sandbox that is BattleTech. And it's through this thing here that we start seeing expansions. Those source books that they were creating, the source books came out. House Leal, House Davion, House Steiner, all those original ones came out before this MechWarrior came out, before they came up with MechWarrior at all. So they were already had hit on a winning combination with the tabletop war game by providing, in theory, a deep, rich world sandbox that you could play in that rivaled anything you would find in a role-playing game. This preceded the actual role-playing game element of BattleTech, which is pretty awesome if you really think of it that way, if you think of it at all. So, I mean, you know, I'm just saying, dude, if you can get your hands on something like this, if you can get your hands on this version, I'd grab it, because granted, everything now is what, 5th generation, 6th generation rule sets. I haven't gone down and the rabbit hole to actually see how many versions. I think there's like a 3rd or 4th version. It's called something completely different. One of y'all was telling me about it in the comments a while back on a different video, and if I love it, Pete, I don't remember what it is. And I think I have a PDF of one. I also have a PDF I did recently that's in my queue for posting on the channel at some point, that has the MechWarrior companion book in a PDF, which would have been the more version, the fan pro version of this 2nd or 3rd edition MechWarrior, right? I don't know. Anyway, I'm Rick. You're not. That's Missy. You guys have a great weekend. The holidays are coming. just irritates me to no end.